Here we are live on the Trash Talk Business Podcast, episode 148. I'm Andy Weins, owner of Camo Crew Responsible Junk Removal here in the greater Milwaukee area. And every week we come together to grow, strive, and build our junk removal dreams. As always, here we are. Tuesday, what do we do? Tuesday afternoon. Jake Still is joining us today. Jake, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Excited to talk to you some more.
Absolutely. So we briefly chatted LinkedIn or something, and then had a phone call, and all is good. So for all the people that don't know who you are, you've been recommended a few times by a few people here in the junk removal game. So tell the listeners and everybody else, why are you here? What brings you here?
Oh, specifically to this conversation, or junk removal, or a little bit of both?
All the above, baby. This is your world. We're living in it.
Yeah. So, I mean, likewise for you, man. A lot of people have been talking about you. I've been starting to do a little more research into some of the other top players out there right now, right? That are the non-franchisees, and just seeing what guys are building. And I've watched a lot of your videos, and I was excited to connect with you on this one. I've been doing this since 2016. I was prior to this, I was in medical sales, and I've always wanted to be more entrepreneurial. And I said, why would I like to do something fancy like medical sales? Why wouldn't I want to be a trash man, right? So I made the rational decision, and it's still been the best decision I've ever made. And I'm looking forward to continue to grow this.
So how big is your operation now?
So peak season around 40 employees, 13 trucks, but we have 3 different divisions. So we do junk removal, dumpster rentals, and then a little bit of lot maintenance. I'm actually up in upstate New York for a new contract we just won. So we actually, I'm supposed to be in a hotel right now, and we got there and there was homeless people in the lobby. So we quickly moved and got an Airbnb and quickly got set up to make sure, I can make it to this call.
This is the junk removal dream. So are you in upstate New York, or where are you based out of?
So we're based right outside of Philly. So in New Jersey, Morristown, New Jersey. So right now where I'm in Bath, New York. During this call.
So is this a one-time project you guys are doing, or is this repeat work?
So this is repeat work. So it's for our lot maintenance division. We got a little bit expanded into sweeping, and a little custom how we do it. So this is new. So I came up here to, put my eyes on it and really see what the project would work and how we're going to manage it from afar. Because we bid on more contracts like anywhere in the nation actually doing this. So this one's nice because it's local, but we bid on ones literally up by you, California, Texas, everywhere.
And what exactly are you doing? You're doing sweeping lots? You got a big sweeper truck?
Yeah, lot maintenance, portering. It's before we've always done portering because it kind of is just easy, removing trash. And now we started to got into sweeping with actual machines, and they're fairly easy if you learn how to operate them. It just comes into financing and budgeting them and working out the bids and figuring out the logistics.
Absolutely. So this is interesting. We've had people that do porting service. We have people that do some lot maintenance as far as emptying trash cans at malls and different places like this, but not full on sweeping, cleaning. So let's talk about your business. What percentage of your business is junk removal versus dumpster versus this lot maintenance piece?
So it's probably, I would make it easy numbers, 60, 20, 20 maybe right now.
Okay.
60 mainly junk removal, then dumpsters, and lot maintenance.
And are you in a single location there?
Yeah. So our goal is to get to, I think we have the capacity right now, and we'll see how the lot maintenance goes, but around 8 million is what I think our location can do. We have a good population where we're in Philly as well. This year we're hoping to do a little bit over 5 million. So it's easier said than done, like everyone knows, right? So we'll see.
No, and that's the thing. It's and there's different sized businesses doing different pieces of work, and then understanding what does it take, right? I mean, so if you're saying your goal is 5 million and you're at 60, 20, 20, you're looking to have $1 million a year, lot maintenance company, $1 million a year, dumpster rental company, and a $3 million a year junk removal company. And so it really, those 3 divisions are unique enough. I would argue because they take different types of equipment and different types of personnel. Residential versus commercial junk removal, maybe not so much.
Yeah.
Demolition, even a lot of times you can do demo with the same type of equipment and personnel you're doing junk removal with. If it's hand tools,
Yeah.
non-structural. Once you get into the tearing down, houses or sheds or garages or even trailer house, then you're all of a sudden renting equipment. It's a different business unit. And again, with
Yeah.
yours, yeah, your dumpster business might incorporate in your junk removal, but it can also be a standalone business. I guess those are the two things I look at when it comes to divisions. Like, can it stand alone, and what are the types of equipment and personnel? Like we did moving back in the day, right? Moving and junk removal, and we're using box trucks for both. So it's like
It was
it's their stuff or our stuff once we put it in the
yeah.
truck.
We did
Yeah.
moving as well.
Oh yeah,
Moving
moving
was
sucks. Yeah. Oh yeah.
it was awful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But good,
Yeah.
it's good business and it goes
Yeah.
hand
I
in
have.
hand
I have.
with junk. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's the junk removal companies or there's the moving companies trying to do junk removal, and they're realizing it's not all sunshine and rainbows either, because
Yeah,
there's a
yeah.
nuance to
Of
junk
course.
removal.
Yeah. And to be
All right, so
clear, I think moving's a
medical.
great business, but it's so
Yeah,
hard to do both.
great, great. Moving can be a great business. It's not junk removal though.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why like Big Blue does what they do. That they do
Hmm.
junk and that's it. Junk Kings, Junk Genius, place like that, similar. And then you have College Hunks, which is probably the only franchise I can think of that does or attempts to do both.
Mm.
Um, 2 Men in a Truck are have gotten into junk removal the last few years. It's not. Maybe it's 5%, 10% of the revenue at most. I know our local company, they have 40 moving trucks and 2 junk trucks. So how much dedication they're putting into it is questionable.
Yeah.
So junk removal, you're doing medical sales, got into junk removal. What keeps you going now? What's your passion now? 5 million in revenue, 40 plus employees, 14 trucks. What keeps you motivated now to stay in the business? Because a lot of people would say, "Oh, you've made it." So what gets you excited in the morning and out of bed?
So yeah, I mean, for me, right, like I can't think of many people that ever like grew up and say I want to be in junk removal, right? Like that's not what we dreamt of growing up. For me, I've always wanted to be entrepreneurial, and I always did manual labor type of jobs throughout high school, college, right? I just liked working my hands and getting a workout in, right, and just being productive, right, in that regard. Um, and then I did medical sales because I was chasing money and following other people. Like my degree was in marketing after college, and then I saw an opportunity more than anything else. I had experience in this industry. I worked in it in college, and I like being a white collar mindset in the blue collar space. Um, and I really
Mm,
liked what a lot of these companies were doing with their branding. Like I said, my background was marketing, so I just really saw an opportunity there, and I like working with people. I did medical sales for 2 years. I sold 100,000 aesthetic lasers to dermatologists and plastic surgeons, and I all I did is cold call all day long, right, day
mm,
after day. I was by myself. Never met my boss. I had two bosses. One was in Vegas. One was in Boston. Never met them. I never learned how to do medical or how to do biology, physics, anatomy, which I needed all three of those. And it was a really rough, grueling time, but I learned a lot. And one of the things I also learned is that's not what I wanted to do forever. So I wanted to work with people, and really, what keeps me going now is the impact you get to have on like frontline guys. Like a lot of
mhm,
our guys, um, you know, like I'm on this trip right now up here, um, and one of the guys is with us, and he might be able to hear me in the other room right now. He hasn't got a chance to travel and see as much, right? And you realize like not everyone has the same experiences as you do growing up in your environment
oh,
and
yeah,
everything else. And I'm really learning about like I want to help guys learn like the skill of learning is a skill in itself, right? And how to apply knowledge and practical skills and all that kind of stuff. So we're actually really big in our LMS right now, rolling that out, which is learning management software. And
mhm,
my bigger vision and dream is kind of really to redesign the education space where I think employers can start being more not just training people on the job itself, but training them in real life skills, right? Financial literacy, again, how to learn, how to apply um, problem solving, your soft skills, right? And the goal is like building leaders. Like and that's what College Hunk says. Got Junk. A lot of people say, but are you actually doing it? Are you actually giving them skills that they can go apply? So that's a bigger thing. That's the thing I want to solve more than anything else because that impact. Where I've had teachers in my life, there or coaches and stuff, and I can really remember like them making an impact, right? That I still remember how I felt when they pulled me aside and had a conversation with me, and told me what they thought I could accomplish, right? And I think, we owe that if we really want to be leaders in this space, we owe them that. But obviously, it's cool to have a vision, but just like anything else, you have to put it together. You got to execute. And one of the things you have to learn is that how other people learn. Like it's easier to be like, well, just do it. This is the way I did it, or why can't you get it? So really trying to find what's the most effective way to do that is really what my number one thing is to accomplish right now. Um, and with that is growth of the company, right? Which you can create careers and everything else. But ultimately, I want you to grow with the company. I want you to grow individually. But if you're not growing, right, like that, then we're failing as leaders in the organization.
Yeah, it's interesting. I talked about earlier this year. One of my goals this year is to put together a leadership development program where we're bringing. So we have a 12-week program for our guys, 6 weeks essentially to get you to the point of being a driver. And then another 6 weeks or six weeks to get you a driver and knowing what a crew chief does, and then
Mhm.
another 6 weeks so that you're a crew chief. So within 12 weeks, you could be a crew chief here. And I'm looking at a leadership development program where within 12 months you have worked in all the different facets of the building. So you've
Yeah,
you've worked in the field, you've worked in operations, you've worked in the warehouse, and you've worked in sales. And then after those 12 months, then we figure out, hey, where's your best fit and where are you going to go? Are you going to be a
yeah.
team lead and continue banging jobs? I mean, our service manager Casey, he's been here a number of years, and he's had a couple chances for a promotion or going up or a lateral promotion. He's like, no, I like where I'm at. Like, and he's service manager. He's out with the guys, training them, banging jobs.
Mhm.
A lot of things that you're saying because that's what he wants to do. That's where he is, and so it's very important to me. And I had a call earlier today with MATC, which is Milwaukee Area Technical College, and how do we bridge that gap between academia, especially in a tech ed field,
Yeah,
and the real world, right? Like you said, the best of the white collar mentality in a blue collar business. Um, because we can sit here and bitch about high school kids having no skill sets and college kids being entitled, or we can do something about it. Like those are the two options: bitch or do something about it. So I
right.
love that you see that advantage, and there's a philanthropic aspect to, hey, I'm going to invest in my people, and there's a capitalistic mindset, right? The more I invest, the more skilled and capable they are, the more money they're going to make for my organization. I mean, that's
Yeah,
that's that's the brass tacks. The difference is it's about making the investment on the front end. A lot of
yeah.
people in this space have that scarcity mindset, and it's like, well, I got to get through this week. I got to bang this job. I got to make money this week. It's like, oh, what money and time and energy are you going to invest in your people this week? So you have years of a runway, not days or weeks.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, it's easier said than done, right? And then you have, like, it is a real thing to obviously have bills to pay and everything else, right? So you have to be smart in your design. You have to be a good planner, and then you got to be disciplined to follow through with
Yep.
it. Which we're not perfect at. We've been working at this a long time. Like we grew a lot faster in the first couple of years than we have the most recent. Because for me, I always say that everybody, like, getting to $2 million in rev was actually really easy. And by easy, I
Mhm.
mean a lot of hard work, but it wasn't complex. It was just work harder. You didn't have to
Yep.
really learn how to manage and systemize and do everything else. Like that was our cap of us just running through the wall and doing everything and being burnt out. Um, so it's for me, it's learning. There's a book I really like. It's called Essentialism, and the whole premise is less is more, right? You
Mhm.
don't, you can't be everything, right? You can't do anything. Or you can do anything, but you can't be everything and do everything. You have to pick a lane, um, and really get some stuff done. So yeah, I just think it's a continuing process to figure that out. But I think getting calls like this, finding like-minded people that want the same thing, right, for their people is a great way to share that. Because I've been talking to a lot of people about the software that we're using to accomplish this, and a lot of guys are getting interested in it. There's a lot of them out there right now, but I think I'm a big fan of software, like as much as possible.
Were you operations software, education software? What are you talking about?
Everything you can, right? So specifically in this, I'm talking about education software,
Yeah.
and they're getting better and better, like with the APIs to tie into more things. But we use something called Talent LMS, and I really like it for, like, so many things right now are just like videos, right? Video training is great, but I'm really a big fan of sequential learning as well as you got to actually test and assess, right? And there's different
Yep.
ways
Oh,
that
yeah.
this software allows us to do it, where you can automate it, right? So you don't have to be everywhere. And we've kind of created a way within the LMS that I think is kind of unique to us that we're developing peer-to-peer training systems where everybody learns how to train, the whole organization. It's a core value, right? That we're all going to be training. And we're trying to build that out. Obviously, it's going to take time, and we're testing and tweaking stuff. But the goal is, right, that's the culture, right? We've had a culture of
Mhm.
always learning has always been a core value, right? But like, the flip side of that is somebody needs to be, you can't just always have a thirst for knowledge, right? Sometimes, there has to be leaders in the organization that are actually, coaching and providing leadership, right? So that's something that we're trying to adopt more. And it takes some time to create those new habits, but we're really looking forward to what we do this year because we're putting a lot of, like, half my day every day goes into, for most days, goes into the LMS software right now.
I emailed my integrator LMS. I've never heard of this. Uh, so yeah, I went as you're talking. I googled it quick, found it, sent it to him because that's where we're at. We're still like pen and paper,
Mhm.
very much on our our training programs are very much we came up with them. We modeled them after other people, and even in talking to MATC, we were talking about utilizing the technical colleges, grant
Mhm.
writers, and to write grants to fund us to build a training management program. And it's like, well, with AI now and these pre-built systems, that's more interesting and probably a shorter time and more customizable as we go. So that's interesting because yeah, like you said, 2 million. We've been hovering last 3 years since I've been back. So I had a 2 year non compete. Last 3 years, we've been hovering on the $2 million mark
Mhm.
and getting there, like you said, you can get to 2 million through brute force and being owner centric. This
Yeah.
is this is, and I had a president of a company we tried going and he could never get it past where I took it. And even actually went backwards a few times because he didn't want to do
Mhm.
it was motivation over discipline. And it's like, well, discipline will always win over motivation.
Right.
Being consistent is a lot better than um, short bursts of energy. And
Mhm.
so now my business partner is extremely consistent. He's disciplined. He was on the podcast a couple weeks ago. He's a firefighter. He's all about rules and guidelines, which are good because then we can have best practices and we do the best practices every time, not
Yeah.
occasionally. And so for us, and we're on the trajectory of where you are. We want to get from 2 to 5 million in
Mhm.
time. And in order to get there, it has to be an entire ecosystem. Not, oh, here's this process and this process. They're not really linked. They're just to these processes. No, it has
Yeah.
to be all congruent. And so that's what this year is a lot about. Obviously, still, still banging jobs and running a junk roll company every day,
Yeah.
and building out best practices so that we have much more um, sustainable success in the future and much more
Yeah.
predictability with people, right? Because predictability with people is almost like an oxymoron in itself.
Yeah. So I like that you brought the systems part. That was a major thing we're realizing as well, because you hear systems, right? Um, and I'm a big fan of the E-Myth, which I think a lot of the guys in this
Mhm.
industry are familiar with it. Um, and you know, the one thing about systems is we build them all the time, but the systems, as you talk about, they have to integrate. You can't have independent systems; they
Mhm.
all have to work together. So one of the things that we did for our we tried LMS back in 2019. We started with it, right? And we just didn't get anywhere where we wanted to go. We had all this content built and everything else. And this time, as you get older, you realize new wisdom, new experiences, whatever. So we just kept saying, like, we're going to figure out one course and one course only, but we're going to figure out how that course is going to be, how we're going to onboard somebody, right? From traditional onboarding to onboarding into the LMS to the performance management system to, assessments, grading, promotion, and just test everything else that, like, again, hypothetical that would happen in this one course. And we tested that and tested it and tested it and tested it and tested it. And finally, we figured out this new system that we believe we can now manage long term and on how we're going to utilize it in with because it has to work with our other systems, right? We use a bunch of other softwares. We have our own way of management, and we finally figured that out. And then after that, now we can just punch out new content, new courses because now we have something to plug it into. I
Mhm.
think a lot of guys, do you guys use Whip Around? A lot of guys are starting to use that
No,
for fleet.
never
Whip
heard of
Around's
it. What
great
does
for
that do?
fleet
Okay.
maintenance, and pre and post trip inspections, and we've
Okay.
tied our tools into it as well. So we do, the pre trip in the morning, make sure all the trucks have what they need. Obviously, make sure they're safe, but then make sure they have the tools they need. reason I bring that up is really common is like, let's use a checklist example. Here's the
Yep.
checklist example. So if you just have a 10 item checklist and you love that checklist, it works awesome. And then you realize, let's say it's your tools, and you realize, hey, why don't we have sawzalls in the trucks? And you add that. That checklist works. All you have to do is add a line item now, right? And it's into your system, right? So that is where it really has to happen. A lot of these, like that system works, and then all you have to do is plug something into it. It makes it a lot easier. And that's why I view a lot of these where um, guys don't have the main system down before they start plugging everything into it, right? Like keep it simple, make
Mm.
sure it works with it, right? And then you optimize it a little bit more. But right away, people try to make too many changes, and they don't even have the baseline down yet.
I'm the latter. I'm like, oh, this
Mm,
sounds awesome. Let's incorporate. Oh, that sounds awesome. Let's incorporate it. So my integrators are the governor for that, right?
yeah,
He's like, well, we gotta run the current play and figure out the current play, and then we can, add to the
yeah.
playbook.
Well, and the other thing is that that's how I used to be, right? So I'm slowly, I guess, is getting more mature professionally as well. Like realizing like the integrated part of it is so important, right? So like we do
Sure.
EOS as well. So it sounds like that's what you guys use,
EOS.
right?
Love me some
We
EOS. Yep.
Yeah, we've adapted it though over the years because we realized it doesn't always work. Um,
Hmm.
we did follow through. We had a implementer, once a quarter we meet with as well. And
Yep.
yeah, we changed it over time, and now it's working a lot better for us. And we made subtle changes, but we realized, it doesn't always have to be exact.
What changes did you make to EOS? Is your
We so
L10s?
Yeah, so we were using the software before too. We were using I don't know if you use the EOS softwares to run the meetings.
Yeah,
We were
we use
using
nine.
them.
We use 90IO.
Yeah, we were using Traction Tools and then changed to
Yep.
Bloom.
Yep.
But now we use our project management software, which is called Asana, where we
Yeah,
also
we use.
manage our projects in it. Yeah.
Oh, really? So you
So we
use
use
Asana for your L10s?
Yep. We just made a project and we run it out of there because, for example, right, we can now easily create the subtask right in there. We can comment on that thread. We can work on
Yeah.
it. We can share it. Um, and we were tired of too many softwares, right? Um, so that's something we
I
adapted
we
with it. And then the projects can all the individual projects, the rocks,
Yeah,
right? Can you listen to that too? So
that's
small
interesting because
changes
we
here
had
and there.
we no, we had that conversation yesterday about what to-dos live on 90IO and what to-dos live on Asana, because we use
Yeah.
Asana for our hiring process, I use it for my
Hmm.
speaking business.
Yeah. We
We got
have,
a
so
lot
what we do in
lot
our
of stuff
summer,
to think about.
we have a to do, like a daily general, like, hey, anything that kind of just like comes up day to day, a client complaint we have to handle real quick because we're using our CRM to do that, but now we just use Asana for everything.
Yeah,
Or like the truck taillights out, get that fixed real quick. Anything that kind of comes up day to day comes in, but then also anything that comes out of the L10 also goes into that. Because another issue that I had with the L10s is that if your plate already has 20 to dos on it that you need to get done, and then you go into a meeting, that meeting in L10 in the software, you don't really remember, can I actually do I have the capacity to take on these other items? Because I already have 20 things outside of this meeting that I'm committed to, right? So we actually look at
hmm,
both of them to be like, hey, what's our capacity already? And then if those to dos are not done yet, those come into the L10 to be like, hey, that actually is a priority over these other new ones that came up. Um, it took a lot of the nuances to figure out how to do that, but a lot of it came down to like capacity. Like we were just overloaded, and Asana has a capacity function now where you can see your employees' workloads um, using that function in Asana.
you got me thinking about a whole bunch of stuff.
I
For our
know
listeners
there's
not
a lot
familiar
of
with
stuff there. Yeah.
EOS, L10 refers to our level 10 meeting, which is a weekly 90-minute meeting, which is broken down into 7 parts. The largest of the 7 parts is the 60-minute IDS, identify,
Mm,
discuss, and solve. And from there, you get to dos, or you get cascades, which are further meetings, or you get um, rocks. And then rocks are tiered, multi milestone initiatives that are generally at least 30 days, if not 90 days. So that's what
yeah.
we're talking about for non L10 and 90IO, or the Traction Bloom tool. They're both softwares developed to incorporate the work from Traction, Gino Wickman's series of books, EOS, Traction,
Mm,
EOS Life, Rocket Fuel, all those things. And And so now you're talking Asana, which is a project management software. We currently use that. So using the project management software in lieu of the traction software, and it has multiple functionalities. It's really how to work on your business. It's a project management software for on your business. So like CRM in your business. We use
Yeah.
Jobber or your op software in your business. So whether it's 90IO, which we use and we love, and Asana, it's more the projects on your business versus you're banging jobs, and so that's
Yeah.
interesting. I also put that. I also sent the one you said about the fleet. Which one was that? I sent that to my
Whip Round. I can't speak highly
yeah.
enough about Whip Round. Everybody, in my opinion,
Hmm.
should be using Whip Round. It also ties into your GPS system if you have that in your trucks. So
We
you
we
can
do
get,
we use we use Fleet Sharp.
I think it integrates with
Yeah.
that. We use Samsara, and yeah, you can get
Yeah.
fleet maintenance alerts when you hit certain mileages, or like you can get alerts if the crew member has not did their pre-trip yet and they started to drive that truck. Um, so, which
Hmm.
obviously like for safety and maintenance things, but also like making sure you arrive to the job with tools. So obviously that's time and money, but also a client can be upset. So
Yeah.
yeah, these are all things over time, and yeah, I Whip Round's like a no brainer for me.
Yeah.
That
That was my
anyone can
Twitch.
integrate into their business.
That was my twitchy face because guys always show up to jobs on time and communicating effectively with all their tools. Also,
Yeah.
Solzol. This is a total sidebar tangent.
Mhm.
Milwaukee World Headquarters, like in name only, is like less than a half a mile from my shop. So I'm right here
Mhm.
outside of Milwaukee, owned by a Chinese company. That's another story. However, I was raised on yellow. I was a DeWalt guy, and I used to sell DeWalt tools. So in DeWalt, Black and Decker DeWalt, if you use the word Solzol, like that was grounds for getting fired. So it's
Mhm.
certain things like Solzol, uh, skill saw, right? No, it's a reciprocating saw or a
Yeah, yeah.
circular saw. So I get
Mhm.
twitchy when I hear Solzol, um, and I buy all DeWalt stuff, and all my guys like Milwaukee stuff. So we have a
Yeah.
combination of yellow and red in our shop. Kind of depends, who bought what when. So I'm a
Mhm.
yellow guy through and through. I was
I'm a
raised
DeWalt.
right. Yeah, I'm a DeWalt guy. It
Mhm.
is what it is. So yes, it's a reciprocating saw, and it gets me twitchy when people say Sawzall. Only because I
So,
was that was beaten into my head.
well, so side note with that too. So we just did our LMS, right?
Yep.
And we're still doing. We're rolling out more and more courses, but um, we redid like our tools, and we're like, well, how are we going to do stuff on Hammer, or how are we going to do stuff on like, even Sawzall, right? But like, you do it, and you just take for granted what you don't already know. And I'm a big, like I said, I was in sales before this, and I teach our guys,
Yep.
you don't realize how important confidence is. And well, what does that have anything? Why do tools have anything to do with sales? Well, if you can, what you just did right there, I'm like, oh, this dude's an expert on that topic, right? And not only does that portray to the client when you talk about that, you use buzzwords and you really know what you're doing, but it comes across in your confidence, right? The more you're educated in your space, you sound like an expert, the easier sales are, right? And so we were redoing all the training and we were learning stuff left and right that I knew nothing about. Yeah, I'm handy, but I'm definitely not like a tools expert kind of thing. I'm just kind of more I'll figure it out. Um, but I'm pretty low intelligence, I would say, when it comes to tools and talking about them.
Yeah, and I grew up. Yeah, I grew up on. Yeah, I grew up a carpenter's son selling DeWalt tools. So, uh, no, but what you said. You said this a few times now. A little bit about the travel and a little about taking for granted what you know. There's guys where I'm like, hey, go grab a Phillips head screwdriver, and they look at you, and I'm like, Phillips head. Like, how do you not know what that is? And it's like, well, some people
Yeah,
don't know what that is. So it's like, all right,
yeah,
having that baseline knowledge, or like they don't know how to take doors off. I'm like, how do you not know how to take a door off? You fucking
yeah,
you tap it up, you take the thing, and it's like I've never done that before. I'm like, okay, got it. Well, again, things I took for granted growing up the way I did. Hell, I've seen guys use hammers, and I'm like, you got to use like using a sledgehammer, for example, like all assed
two
up.
hands,
It's like,
that all the
yeah,
time.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Just
just like that.
slide.
Yeah,
You just let
yeah,
let the hammer. Like they got their
yeah,
their hands up here, like yeah. It's like no, you let it up, and then you just like the weight will do the work.
yeah,
Um, and again, I grew up carpenter's son. I grew up on a farm, so swinging a sledgehammer, swinging an axe, knowing how to use a shovel, knowing how to
yeah.
efficiently sweep. Like these are all things like fuck the army. I've
Officially,
swept in
sweep is a
plenty
wild
of
one too.
wars.
'Cause I agreed.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, oh, yeah, efficiently sweeping. You're like, how? What took you so fucking long? It's like, what? Why are you sweeping like that? Like, I get angry
well,
when I watch guys sweep.
So that's one of the crazy things about our industry, right? Is we're one of the only industries that I know of, right, where the crews not only do the work, but they do the sales with no really supervision, right? So we're asking a lot of them to be
Oh,
out there on their
autonomous.
own
Oh, yeah, totally.
doing this, right?
We're
So
yeah,
yeah,
they're running their own little business unit kinda all day. Yeah.
yeah, and we're judging them from afar, right? Because we assume, right? And like the other thing I've been learning as I get older, right? All those cliches you've heard, like if you assume, yeah, you make an ass out of you and me, right? Like you learn that they're valid. There's a reason for those things because like you just be like I was like, all right, I was like, I'm gonna start relating everything to fitness, right?
Mm.
Like in like calories, really basic stuff. Cause I'm like, oh, everyone's kind of aware of that, right? So I'm talking to guys and I'm like, well, how many calories do you think that Gatorade has? And they're like, Gatorade has calories? I'm like, yeah, Gatorade has calories. There's sugar in it. Like, read the back of the label. And like, what do you mean? And they didn't even know how to locate the label, right? And these are guys that I know are intelligent. They're good at their job,
Yep.
right? It's just that if you don't have interest and you didn't have to learn about those things, or let's say you came from, you know, low income and you didn't have, and I don't know for these guys specifically, but I'm saying, like, you didn't worry about the calories. You just worried that if you had food, right? Like, it's a privilege to care about fitness and trying to cut calories, right? Like, you just don't know. So, like, I've learned, like, I don't care what it is now. And this is where the training goes back into an assessment. I don't care what you say on it anymore. I will have to assess you and test you. And you're going to get annoyed with me sometimes on that. And that's how we're training the program right now because too many guys, and I don't know if you ever read like Extreme Ownership by Jocko.
Yep, I
Um,
do.
but it's really about like you again asking better questions down the chain, better questions up the chain. But asking questions up the chain is a skill in itself, and most guys don't know how to do that. Even stronger leaders, sometimes just don't feel like saying anything. Right? Nobody likes to look stupid. So you really have to go out and um, like pull that knowledge, right from them and ask them, do they actually understand it? Go apply that knowledge and let me know you understand it. Because when you do that, you have so much more trust for them out in the field. So if your guy crushes it on sales, let's say, and you do a bunch of role play, he's doing, and he's out there and he can't close the client, you have more trust to be like, okay, maybe this client just is really difficult. You're doing everything you can. But if you haven't seen them do it, you start to question it, and that kills trust, that kills relationship. So like it's so much worth it in the front end to train, and I guess it
Mm.
goes back to just investing into the employees. Easier said than done. We still don't do it perfectly, but we're trying to
No.
get to that.
Well, it's the inspect what you expect. We
Yeah.
had, one guy in particular, he wanted to be really high in this company, he wanted to grow, and there's a lot of things where we're like, "Man, is he really doing this thing?" And then there was and we talked about at the end of job, right, ask for a review, thank you card, promo pack, ask for a review, ask for a referral, like, have that conversation. And we noticed his reviews were down. So I talked to Casey, my service manager. This was end of last year. And Casey's like, yeah, I've trained him. He knows how to do it. He's done the role play. Okay. And he says he does it all the time. Okay. Well, then we sent somebody else out with him, newer guy, right? And he came back and he had 8 jobs that day. We go, how many times did he ask for, how many thank you cards you hand out? He goes, two. I'm like,
Yeah.
why? He goes, well, he didn't want to hand out thank you cards or ask for a review for any jobs that were less than a quarter trailer. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's the jobs we can get. Those are it's the simplest ones to get the reviews on. Oh, guys showed up. They're
Yeah.
here for 10 minutes. Everything went away. I was happy. Like,
Hmm. And
good
then
luck getting a review on a hoarding house. You know what I mean? Like,
you get the pushback, right? They're like, yeah, I keep like I'm doing everything you say, and I'm not getting them. And you're like, it doesn't add up. I know you're
no,
not doing all
the math don't math, right?
of
And again, and so that's the inspect what you expect, right? That's that little cliche that can work. Also,
it.
training is only as good as the end result. So, like last week, we started actually giving our guys tests. So all of our existing guys are going through our 6-week training program,
Yeah.
and between 2 weeks, we've only had 100 on a test. I'm like, okay. And
Mhm.
we had a 60 and passing for us is 70. Eventually it'll be 80. We got to see where the bench is. So most guys are getting 70s and 80s. So I'm like, okay, who got the 60? And it's a guy who's relatively new. And I would say, okay, common sense metrics. Yep. He's probably the one that got the 60, right? And the
Yeah.
guy that got the 100 is the guy that's been here for 7 years and knows all the answers. So I'm like, okay, the test is valid, right? Like that's
Mhm.
the range. No one got a 20. So it's like, okay, they're not terrible and the test isn't. And the other guy, our number 2 guy, he got a 90, whatever. I think it's on a 10. So he got a 90 and a 95 or whatever between the two
Mhm.
tests. So it's like, okay, maybe there's a couple questions that need a little tweaking, the actual questions themselves. However, if our top 2 guys are getting 90s and 100s, Most guys are getting 70s and 80s. It's like, okay, the test is valid. Now I know what you know. And if everybody gets the same question wrong, well, then we also know, okay, we haven't done a great job explaining this.
Yeah,
If
and
80% of the
that's what I
guys
love
get
about the
80% of the
team.
questions, yeah. No, that's
You
what I
have
love
that
about,
common metric, and you're like, oh, it actually is us. Everybody's getting this wrong. That is on us.
yeah. Yeah. If people get two wrong, like if the average is, 10 questions, everyone getting two questions wrong, and it's all over the place, it's like, oh, okay. This guy struggles here, that guy struggles there.
Yeah,
We do weekly training every Tuesday, and it's like, oh, maybe they were
yeah.
gone the last time we trained this, and they just don't
Mm-hmm.
know the answer.
How are you
You know?
doing the assessments? Like a printout test? Like how are you making them?
Oh man, old school, baby, old school, multiple choice, 2 pages, 10 questions. Right,
Yeah,
because right now that's why, like I said, we're doing pen and paper, and
yeah.
even the end of day reports we do. Our guys do their end of day reports. Number of
Mhm.
jobs. List all the
We
jobs to a point where we get the recovered rates, gross
yeah,
dollars
that's
per
only when we do
hour,
paper.
gross profit.
Yeah.
Was that you said?
That's only when we do paper, and it's strategically is because
The,
I want them to do the math. I want them to see the work. I want them to understand it.
Correct. The
That's what I want.
EODR. So yeah. So the way they do it is they do the paper, then they fill out the Google form. Then our operations manager validates the data. So they're like,
Mhm.
no, you didn't do
Yeah.
$12 an hour.
Yeah.
We carried the wrong one.
So
Um,
I don't know how
and,
many people
and
you
that'll
talk
always be
to.
on paper. Yeah.
Yeah, that would always. I think there's other. I'm open to other ideas, but I do like strategically. Let's see the work right on it.
Yeah.
But one of the things is crazy as you tell that's like how you do it, right? I met with a bunch of guys, right? And like, there's times where I'm like, I feel like a genius. Like, we made the best thing ever, right? And I talk to everybody else, and they come up with the same exact thing. I'm like, no, we're not that special, right? Because we're trying to
Yeah.
solve the same. We're all trying to solve the same problems, right?
Yeah.
Um, so like that's also where like a true best practice group comes in. Like, hey, be open to listen and like, what are you guys using? That works really good for you. Why? Great. Like you can learn so much more about working together with people than trying to do everything by
Oh yeah.
yourself. Kind
And this is you teed me up for my shameless unpaid for plug for the Bolt Accelerator put on by Barry and the boys over at the 505 Junk Removal up there in Vancouver. A lot of what we're doing now is because we joined the accelerator 5-6 months ago. I want to say September,
of.
October. And to your point, we're like, oh, we also do this. You're doing it better. Let me take what we're doing, add it to what you did. So like our end of day reports, we weren't doing them at the team level. We were doing them at the at the leadership level. And I've
Yeah,
always
yeah,
wanted to do the end of day report, and I didn't have a starting point. So
yeah,
Barry from 505 and then Taylor Chastain from Up and Away. Shout
yeah. I
out
know
to him
Taylor.
down the Atlanta market. Yeah. So we took his end of day report and 505s and what my vision was, and we created our own. Now we're super happy with it because it works for us. We also run a
Mhm.
unique model because we run trucks in tandem. We run a 24 or 26-foot box truck in tandem with a
Yeah,
24 cubic yard dump truck. So the guys leave and come back, and they've done anywhere between 3 to 5 trailers every day. And they go to the transfer station or scrapyard once a day versus, 5 times.
right. And
So
there's
it's
benefits
our
to
our
those
end of day
things.
report is inherently different.
Yeah,
Yeah. Either way, it
that's
went from
another.
Andy, the visionary, owning the data, to the vision to the integrator owning the data, to the service manager owning the data, to now the crew chiefs own the data,
Yeah,
and it impacts the team leader or the team members and their bonuses by owning the data, right? Owning the dollars per hour.
yeah. And even then, right, you have to get down to like they'll just go through the motions and write it and not understand really still understand why. Like the numbers are right in front of you, right? We have all the goals right next to it too.
Yeah.
So what I've learned, there's another book I'm actually reading right now. It's called Amplify Your Influence, and it's really about, I think you hear influence, you think of influencers and stuff, but it's really about how to really be a better leader and more effective leader in your communication, and
Mm.
keep people from being defensive, but understand the why, getting them to buy in, right? And a lot of it comes down to really going deep and understanding, like, do you understand why we do this, right? And just getting that point across before anything else, because if you don't understand the why, there's no buy-in, right? You don't actually see how it all connects and the value of it. Um, so like, and that's hard to do, especially in our industry where like we can't be out with you all day long. We're only going to see you a little bit in the morning and maybe at the end of the day, depending when you get back. So like we have very limited time to actually spend with our teams. Whereas like, yeah,
Mhm.
if we were a warehouse job, whatever, something like that, where we're right around you all the time, right? It's just different. Um, so yeah, I just think, it's a unique situation which requires a different solution, right, than other companies, right? So I think that's where a lot of people struggle at that 2 million mark, right? Because it like you see it rampantly even franchises, right? Like the top franchises, very few that really do that much in rev. Um, I think because of the way the business model is set up, it's not a very scalable thing from like management because there's so much independency, as we talked on. Independency, that's
Yeah,
not a word, just independence.
independency. I like it.
Yeah, yeah,
Interdependent dependency of
interdependent. Yeah,
independent people. Uh,
yeah,
no, no, I love that because what you're saying is dead true. Even like the franchise model, typically it's like, once you get to 1.5, 2 million, that's like a sustainable, successful franchise. It's like cool. Now what? I mean, there's a couple thresholds in junk removal. It's like there's the hit $100,000 a year in top line revenue, and get yourself a $50,000 a year salary guy,
mm,
right? Then there's the 500,000, and I'm using a roundabout rate. It's going to be inflated in some markets like Philadelphia, and it's going to be down in maybe some
yeah,
markets in the southeast that are, but it's at around $500,000. So again, that's 350 to 750 basically. But it's like two truck operation. I'm not banging jobs. I got guys, right? Like
mm,
those, there's like that threshold, and then get from that to 2 million is not really that difficult. Like to your like for us to we went from 380 to 900 to 1.5. So it's like, oh
yeah,
yeah, like, and we're just like, basically, like you said, we just did more of the same shit we'd been doing. And
right,
then I hit my 2 year non compete and some other shit happened. But it's like, then we were at 1.7, and then we were at 1.8, and then we were at 1.9. Last year we were at 2.2, we finished 2.1 and some change. So it's like, okay, how do I get to 5 now that we have to change? We have to take the business out back, shoot it in the face, and rebuild it. Right.
yeah,
There's a hand there. 20% of practices stay the exact same, and 80% need a complete overhaul or a serious looking. Like
yeah,
that's why
and
we have
that's
our
where
training program.
I don't know where I ever heard it. But it's like every time your business essentially doubles, it's a brand new business, right? You have to
Oh yeah.
redesign it, rebuild it, and think of that. And that's where if you can really build your business like $1 billion company from day one, with that in mind, like the big vision on it, it forces you to think differently, where your infrastructure would have
Yeah.
been way different from the beginning, right? To build that way,
Oh
but it
yeah.
takes a lot of patience, a lot of, obviously, but it takes patience behind that, but it takes lessons and wisdom. So yeah, yeah.
Here we go. Take a plan. Vivid vision. Again, that was brought to me by Barry. I am on page buck 22 out of like 150. A quick read. But it says so actually dead on. It says double your business every 3 years, right? And
Mhm.
this is like once you get going. But to your point, you can go. So let's just do the hillbilly math. You can go $1.25 year one, right? That's you owner centric. You can go 2.5 year two, or and again I'm saying years, but like years in the evolution of the business, right?
Mhm.
You can go 2.5, right? And now you got a guy running your truck and you're starting to do networking events and answering the phones and not being in the truck at the same time, right? The 5 million is you got two guys running the truck. You're not in the truck. You are working on the business. To go
Right.
500 to a million, you're not answering the phones anymore. Someone else is answering the
Yeah.
phones. Probably you have a service manager. To get to 1 to 2, you got a service manager, you got basically everything on your leadership team but an integrator. So you got someone in sales,
Mhm.
you got someone in operations, you got someone in service at the very least. So you got 3 salaried employees to get to 2. And then from 2 to 4, now my argument is you need an integrator, you need a full-time marketing person or staff beyond what
Mhm.
you do marketing. And like that's where we're at. So when we look at it, we do 3 year jumps. So the people I'm hiring this year, so I hired in the last 2 weeks, we brought on a full-time operations person. So ops and
Mhm.
sales was the same thing. Now we've split them off. And then we
Yeah.
brought in a marketing person. So we had third party. Now we have in house. So those two
Yeah.
people hired the last 2 weeks. Those are 2 of our 3 strategic hires for the entire year. So I'm like, I
Mhm.
want them cooking now. We're going to get to 3
Yeah.
million this year. In order for us to get to 3 million, I need them working now. I can't wait till I'm at 3 million and then
Right.
try to hire them.
Yeah.
And I know where when we get from 3 to 4 and 4 to 5, I got a good idea of who the next 2 or 3 people are to
Mhm.
oversee those other departments. So like you said, every time you double, the business is different. And
Yeah.
and and if you want to stay doing the same shit, then look at your revenue, add 5 to 10%, and that's what you're going to do year over year. If
Yeah.
you want to grow 25 to 40% a year, You got to be willing to change your org chart every 90 days. You got to be willing to look at your processes every 90, if not 180 days and be like,
Mhm.
okay, does this process still work? Because the old, this is the way we've always done it. That ain't, that ain't going to fucking work.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's two important lessons in that as you grow. The first one is you do math, right? In your head, you know the math to get to 3 million, right? But you also
Yep.
know what your conversion rate is. You know what your CPA is, right? You know all that. But as you delegate those things to new team members and you don't have the systems right, that math actually has to change because all of a sudden your call center rate went from 80% to 60%, right? And now you
Yep.
need to spend more in marketing, but you know, let's just say your on-site conversion rate changes or cancellation or average job size, right? Because as you
Yeah.
scale, great systems, and you don't touch everything in the beginning. This is normal for an entrepreneur, right? You're not great at delegating at first and maintaining quality, right? And I'm a big believer that you can delegate, and actually your team can do better than you were doing it if you build it right. Not easy, but that's another big part of that.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, I tell people all the time here, if for the people that been here, you've been in your role for 90 days. If I can do your job better than you, you're failing. Because I
Mm.
haven't answered a phone in quite some time. Right?
I
I
went on
can
the
I
trucks
can
the
do
first
it.
time recently, and I couldn't close
Yeah.
a dumpster. I couldn't figure anything out. And it comes after you do it like twice. It comes back to you. And I was like literally banging it, and the dude at the transfer station, because I was doing a
Oh yeah.
training video, and the dude at the transfer station like came
Yeah.
over and had to help me close the door. And I was like, I knew how to do it, but I just had no idea. I haven't done it in so long.
Not not then. Oh, I know my
Yeah.
guys give me shit. They're like, "Yeah, unless there's a camera and he's not on a job site." Well, that's
Mm.
there's absolute truth behind that,
But
right? Like, unless
but here's the thing on it. Like, it's so important to be there, but you don't want if you believe in the business that you don't want them at the job. You want them building and growing, right?
no.
You need coaches, you need builders, right? And I think that's where
Yeah.
like people would forget, and it's normal, right? Like, hey, especially if that hire wasn't here when you were anywhere near working in the business,
Oh,
they've only seen you
yeah.
through the perception that you didn't do, this right before, and that's normal. You can't blame them, right? Like that's just a normal way to view it.
Yeah, thankfully, we got a couple OGs here that were still when we were in the backyard. So we ran this business out of our backyard, and
Mm,
so like Casey, my service manager, Jerome, who's our the old man, he's been here in June. It'll be 8 years he's been here out of 9 years in business. Like he's been around. Um, they'll vouch for me if anyone ever says some shit underneath their breath or about me when I'm it's like they're the kind of guys that are going to defend me in the corners I'm not hanging out in because like
yeah,
oh
yeah.
Andy, yeah, he can fucking like he can bang jobs like and that's not his job. Um, so yesterday there was something happened in our business, a common sense metric. So I use KPIs, which are hard and fast data, and then CSMs,
Mm,
common sense metrics. So yesterday, our new marketing person started, and our integrator's out this week on vacation. So I did orientation with her, and she kind of shadowed me, or I mean, I made sure she went through the day and did all the things necessary
mm,
day one. And at one point, she's asking me, "What are the hours here?" And I'm like, "You get here when you need to, and you leave when the work's done." Like this is a salaried position. You're in marketing. Like
yeah,
if you got a meeting at 8 a.m., like be where you need to be so you can be at your meeting at 8 a.m. You got a networking
yeah.
event, be at the networking event. Like, and I'm like, in my head, I'm very autonomous, And I'm
Mm,
like, Casey, who's in service, Mike, who's in sales, and John, who's training to do operations, they're all here at 6:30, 6:45 because they have a 6:45 meeting. I don't give a shit
yeah.
if they get here at 6:15 or they get here at 6:44. They have a 6:45 meeting. And I go, and they leave when the work is done. So answer the phone until 5 p.m. If the guys are all wrapped up and the building's buttoned up by 4:30, 5:01, get the fuck out of here, right? And other
Mhm.
days it's fucking 5:30. You're like, where the hell is these trucks? Or what the hell, And it's all of a sudden 7 o'clock, and you're like, fuck it, we'll finish unloading tomorrow. And so she was asking, she's like, well, when do you get here? And Casey, our service manager, was in his office. I go, Casey, he goes, yeah, what's up? He walks in our conference room. I go, Casey, what are my hours here? He goes, you're not here. You're not supposed to be here. He goes, you're off doing visionary stuff, and we're here running the business. I go, there you go. There's our common sense metric that they're bought into the system because when I'm doing this, I'm learning about shit. Like, yeah, these two softwares you told me about, never thought about them. You're talking about
Mhm.
integrating Asana instead of 90A. Oh, I'm like, oh fuck. Like this is this hour I do every week. This is my research every hour, every week. It's like
Yeah.
I could sit and I can sit and look at every Facebook group there is, or I can come here for an hour and learn from other people in the business about shit I haven't thought about. And then
Mhm.
I'll go do my research and dig deeper. And so that's the sign of success for me because I want to grow that business that I can exit from in 3 to 5 years. So with that end state in mind, the business has to work today without me here. I told
Yeah.
my team I'm going to be gone. I was like, I'm going to be gone in May. Anticipate me not even being in the state of Wisconsin in May because I have back-to-back conferences that I'm going to fly in between. And then I
Mhm.
have an obligation with the military, and then I'm going on vacation with my family. So I'm like, I'm not going to be here in May. And they go, all right. Like that was the end of the conversation. So it's like, well, we got 2 months to figure out what is it Andy does and how do we do all the things without him. And it's like, we're pretty much already there. Now it's merely just an execution piece again, because my end state is not running the day-to-day junk removal company. My
Mhm.
end state is to doing keynote speaking and podcasting and doing all these other things and having influence within this industry versus growing a $20 million junk removal company with all these
Yeah.
locations. Like what's his face? Casey from Stand Up Guys, right? He
Yeah.
is very much, I mean, he is cranking locations. He's got, 8 locations in 6 different markets. Like his goals are different than my goals. So my day to day is
Mhm.
different than his day to day.
Yeah. I talked to
Awesome.
Casey a lot. Um,
He's
and
he
over
recommended
guys.
you so who else? Taylor would probably remember. Your name got brought up like 3 times in a month. So I'm like, all right, there's something
I
going on
just
here.
started doing this more often. Because before I kind of did everything solo, right? I didn't talk to anybody, and
Yeah.
we were really big on franchising it early on. So we were like, why give away trade secrets? And it's stupid. You got to learn.
Yeah.
You got to talk to people. Um, and we
It's
learned.
a we've all been there. It's
Yeah.
scarcity mindset. Oh, we've all been the I got secret sauce and nobody else has. Like, no, everyone has the same fucking sauce. And the sooner you give some of the sauce, you might actually learn something
Right.
by not withholding all the information. Oh,
Yeah.
speaking of, are you a Eagles guy? Are you an Eagles fan? Are you Philly trash? Are you one of those
Yeah.
people?
Yeah. I am. I got a Flyers
Yeah.
hat on right now.
I saw the Flyers hat.
Mhm.
All right, go Birds. I'll
Yeah.
say it.
I was, I
I
was
got
at
no
I was
I
at the
got no beef.
parade.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And you guys burn the city either way. So maybe Philadelphia sports teams just can't be in championship games anymore. Win, lose, or
It,
draw, you guys are burning the
it is
motherfuckers
the
out.
Eagles are the stereotype, and more rightfully so. Other sports teams,
Yeah,
no, not as much, or Philly sports teams, but also it's
yeah.
Northeast. A lot of the New York teams as well. Um, Boston. Again, don't burn the city down, but talk about like their fans and everything else.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. But they don't burn the city down. I got no
yeah,
problem with you giving a shit about what you do.
yeah.
Don't burn. You burn down your own city. Win, lose, or draw.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And I love Dave Portnoy. I love his pizza reviews. I love Barstool, and like he
Yeah,
just embraces Philly trash. Because
yeah.
People from Philadelphia they're good with the Philly trash,
Well,
moniker.
we've learned to
Uh,
embrace it now, especially with Kelsey last Super Bowl and everything else. So
yeah,
yeah.
if you're going to be like embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was part of a franchise system outside of King of Prussia, so Western Burbs. So I spent a little bit of time in Philadelphia for a few years. So uh, cheesesteaks are cool. People are cool. The row houses are fucking weird. There you go. There's my review of Philadelphia.
Yeah,
Having
yeah.
been there, I don't know, half a
Like
dozen
Boathouse
times,
Row,
8
or you mean
times.
just row houses in general in the city and like North
Just row
Philly?
houses in general. Like the fact
Yeah,
it is asphalt, concrete, brick, and then no space, no green, no just like yeah. Growing
yeah,
up on a farm and then in the burbs and even city of Milwaukee is houses. Like there's
yeah, yeah.
grass and there's shit. But yeah, no, going to those areas of Philadelphia that's just like stacked. I'm like, oh, and it's not high
That's
either. That's what's weird.
yeah, yeah. They're all three
Like,
story for the
like
most part. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. It's like 3 stories, but then that's it. Like New York is like big fuck off buildings. Like, all right, I'm fine with that. So it just threw me off when like we're areas of Philadelphia and it's like, I mean, just a complete concrete jungle.
yeah. That's
Um,
got. I mean, if you go to New York, like Queens, Bronx, all those same thing.
but yeah, it's like 3 stories and then just put that. Yeah, that's it. So it's not
Yeah,
huge. So
yeah.
yeah, great food in Philadelphia though. I've always eaten well when I was in Philly, so
Mm.
no shame there. I got nothing else. Airport's terrible. If I was going to complain about one thing about
Really?
Philadelphia, it's that airport was terrible.
I don't
I
know.
don't love it.
I don't think it's
Also,
great.
they lost.
I don't
Also,
really have an opinion.
the only time in the history I've ever lost a bag was at that airport. So maybe that
Oh,
just have a
that
because I
actually,
spent so much
I've
time.
heard a couple of that. Yeah,
Yeah, so that's my issue with the airport. The fact that I spent time at the airport and then got to my hotel without a bag and it came show up the next morning. I was like, that's great. So so basically I had to sleep in my clothes, sleep in whatever clothes I had available and winging the next day.
yeah.
So
Well, maybe so.
that's
Me and my
that's my
fiance, we live
review of
in.
Philadelphia.
Yeah, yeah. That sounded like a Portnoy review, like style wise too. But so
Yeah, like
like
I'm not
we
mad. I'm merely
yeah,
commenting.
Yeah, but that's how important like sounds all the time. Like it just always sounds that aggressive passion, right? But like
Oh
it's
yeah,
passive
I
aggressive.
like
But
that.
anyway, me and my fiance like to do a lot of road
Well,
trips. So
it's not passive aggressive. Aggressive passion is better than passive aggressive.
yeah. So we're doing a road trip, and I think this we most recently we did like Niagara Falls, and then we went to Maine, like all the whole Northeast back down, and Vermont, New Hampshire, Mount Washington, all that kind of stuff. But this time, I think we're gonna go this summer. We're gonna go Chicago as a main destination, but maybe pop up
Yeah.
towards Green Bay, Milwaukee, everything too. So
If
maybe I'll see you out
you
there.
make it through Milwaukee, I'll take. Yeah, no, we do that. Beer brats and cheese. Milwaukee is not really known for anything other than being a Rust Belt city.
Mm,
Uh, Drive through Milwaukee and go to Green Bay. It's a lot cooler. That's there's my advice. I'm from Milwaukee. I love Milwaukee. I love it because I'm here and I'm from here. I do not recommend it as like
no,
this. Like people like people that like want to die on the hill of like where they're from. Like nope. We got some
no,
great festivals in the summer and shitty beer and brats. Like that's and cheese. And the cheese isn't really a Milwaukee thing. It's a Wisconsin thing. The best cheese,
yeah,
best cheese spots are around. Also, like Johnsonville, the town of Johnsonville, where Johnsonville brats are made out of. That's you drive past it like on your way to Green Bay. So detour, go get some brats from the hook and the wholesale shop, and then move on with your business.
all right,
There you go.
yeah.
All
If we
right, look
plan
at
the
this.
trip,
We're
we'll
at an
ask you
hour.
about it.
Absolutely. All right, let's get to the big finish here. What was your top takeaway from today?
For me, it reinforces, I think it's right from the beginning, how important investing in your people and training, and that is the path, right? I think in finding a way to do that, like it just the more people I talk about it, and the more also the interest in it and problems with it, it's just like it, it's where you need to focus on. I just really believe it. It all comes down to investing in your people and again in your systems as well.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've talked about in the past and still remains true is when you spend money in your business, it's one of three things. And this is my big finish moment here. It's one of three things when you spend money in your business. It's either an expense, an asset, or an investment. Expenses, money is gone. You'll never see it again. That's fuel, that's disposal fees,
Mm-hmm.
things of that nature. An asset, that's tools and equipment. The whole goal with tools and equipment and assets are they're going to save you money in the future. You spend the money now so that it saves you money in the future. Buy the recip
Mm-hmm.
saw and put on the truck so now you can take things apart safer and faster. Third thing is investment. Investments are anything that tie that free up your time or your money, or they come back with friends, right? So marketing, networking are investments. Also, people. There's a difference between
Mm-hmm.
looking at people as an expense or an investment. The way I look at it, for every dollar I spend, if I'm paying a guy $20 an hour to be on the trucks, that is $20. I'm worth more than $20 an hour. I'm freeing myself up. When I bring somebody in at $50,000 a year, that's $50,000 I'm spending, so it frees me up to do the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you make those investments in people, really invest in them. Take the time to train them. So to your point, they're as competent as you are, the owner, or more competent at the skill set that they execute, right? Because they're not the owner, they're not the visionary, they're not the one seeing 10 miles down the road. They're doing the thing now. So get them to the
Mm-hmm.
point where you're at, and chances are they're going to do it even better. Because I know for me, when I've done jobs within the company, I did them in order to do them out of necessity, but I always had my mind somewhere else. Like a good operations person is going to want to make operations great. Good salesperson is going to want to make sales great. Versus me, I wanted to get it to a point where it worked, and then I moved on. So
Right.
invest in your people, empower them, give them the autonomy, right? Your crew chiefs, team leaders are on the field, give them the autonomy, and then you'll start to get a lot more ownership and buy-in from your leaders at all levels. So invest in your people, and you do that through education. So I love it. Let's talk about next week. Next week, Alex Cole from A1 Waste Removal. He was a guest on the show about a year ago. If you remember, he started his business, I think it was $50. Someone paid him $50 or $20 a month to take the trash out. And he's built the entire regional trash company based off of that. So he was a guest about a year ago on the show. Every time I see him on Facebook, he's achieving something new, buying another truck, getting more cans, building his influence up there in northern Michigan. So he'll be coming up back on the show next week. If you want to be a guest on the Trash Talk Business Podcast, real simple. Go to trashtalkbusinesspodcast.com and apply to be a guest, or send us an information or an introduction of people you like. Jake here was recommended by 2 or 3 different people in the course of a month. Found him on LinkedIn. We set it up, and here we go, having a great conversation, reinforcing the importance of educating and training your people so that you can build your business from 100,000, 200, 500, a million, 2 million, and 5 million and beyond, like Jake and his company is doing up there in Philadelphia and New York and nationwide to come, while cleaning out lots. So thank you so much, Jake, for being on the show. Thank you to Taylor, our producer. As always, I'm Andy Weins. This has been another amazing week on the Trash Talk Business Podcast. We will see you next week. Bye now.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening. Tap subscribe or follow to get the latest episode. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave us a review and tell a friend to listen. To learn more, visit trashtalkbusinesspodcast.com. Bye now.